At just over 146 years old, it's an interesting place for tourists and spectators. This mill showcases Victorian engineering techniques and their application to modern industry. At its time, the Easton roller mill would have been the equivalent of the nuclear reactor in the neighborhood. Often a meeting place for friends and family, the Easton roller mill is an important part of our history here in Monongalia County. These machines, seen to my left, are the roller mills that the Easton roller mill gets its name from. The mills consist of steel rollers driven by belts which crushed the grain into flour. Most mills of this time were using burr stones. There is a burr stone in the Easton mill, and the burr stone was used prior to the installation of the roller mills. The burr stone was used after the installation of the roller mills to grind animal feed and more coarse grain products. All of the equipment in the mill is powered by overhead shafts with a series of belts and pulleys. Most of these shafts and belts and pulleys were in a state of disrepair when we began work on the mill just a month ago. Some of the belting technology we've been able to reproduce. Some belts were here and were able to be cut to length. Some belts were not here and had to be scavenged from other locations. We hope to be able to bring visitors into the mill, so we've installed some safety ropes and some safety signage, indicating that there is dangerous machinery in operation in this building and that people should exercise caution when spectating. The surprise is, a lot of this equipment does operate. Let me show you what I mean. The first thing we need to do to operate the equipment is to start the air compressor. The steam engine, which is a Lane & Bowley 40 horsepower engine, needs compressed air in order to run because of the removal of the boiler. The boiler was deemed unsafe and was removed in the 70s. Let me show you the work we've done to the compressor. First thing we're going to need to do is start the compressor, and after some work on the compressor we've got it unloading and operating properly, and it's what's going to provide the compressed air to run our Lane & Bowley steam engine inside. All the oiler is turned on. If we oil a couple key points on the engine, you'll notice we put these spectator ropes up. The hope is to be able to have visitors, let them see the steam engine run. This is the medium speed shaft clutch. And now when we reapply air, this medium speed shaft should begin to run. Original age leather belt from the time of the mill that we've restored, and it is just like the leather that you would find on your waist belt. It's actually driving the corn crusher upstairs. We serviced all the shafts and lubricated all the bearings as to make sure not to damage any of the bearing journals. We've taken care to note how the original belts were set up and try to recreate that with labeling for all the shafts. This is one of the main power takeoffs for the mill to bring power to the first floor. Both this power takeoff the one on the second floor, and the corn crusher are all running off of the medium-speed shaft. Let's go run a mill, but in order to do that, we have to go start the low-speed shaft. To access the low-speed collection, tighten this belt, which should start the low-speed shaft. Okay, now that the low-speed shaft's running, let's go upstairs and run a mill. Well, now we're going to go ahead and shut it down and let everything come to a stop here. The hope of having some equipment operating brings all sorts of new possibilities to fundraising, festivals, and donation acquisition. This mill is too interesting of a location to just be preserved as a building. It's a functional part of our industrial history and an important part of Monongalia County's history, and as such we intend to preserve it in an operating fashion long into the future. The Easton Roller Mill sure is an interesting place. Thanks very much for coming. We hope to see you again soon.